Pizza delivery drivers of Reddit. What was the most awkward or unusual request you've had a customer ask for? I delivered to a disabled guy and his disabled mom. I cut up their stromboli for them and distributed it and the 24 wings evenly between them. Then brought the food to their respective handicap accessible beds. Weird, but they were nice and tipped well. The guy's name was Hammer. That's so freaking metal. I deliver organic produce in Ohio. Our clientele is mostly upper class people because organic food and delivery fees is quite pricey. Anyway, on my pick sheet I have an area under each client where they can put special delivery instructions. For example, they may want their box placed out of street view or on their back porch. One day I'm making my way through route, listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, when I look down at my next customer's information to see the following special instructions. Please do not make your presence known during delivery. I took this to mean I should be quiet when approaching the house and setting the box down. No big deal. Turns out what she meant is that I should park down the road and walk to her house so that her neighbors don't know she receives deliveries from the help. I was pretty embarrassed. For her, not me, but I played it cool and tried to leave. We drivers have communication software we can use en route and I let them know to make a note of this customer. Turns out, 2 weeks later the same thing happened to another driver, but she called the cops and the driver later told me she told him it was due to his race. Crazy world we live in. I hope you banned her from your store. One of our semi-regulars called to place an order of eggplant parmesan right before closing. My boss, being stoned and bored, decided to make this meal look freaking fabulous while I was cleaning in the back. Took the delivery to the dude and came back. No big deal. Except I see my boss on the phone, crying. Apparently the dude had ordered this as his possible last meal before going in for bone marrow transplant surgery the next morning. He had called to thank us for receiving a meal that looked just like the way his grandmother used to make it. Goddamn it, Reddit, I don't like to cry. I was asked to join what looked to be a gangbang at a Super 8. The woman was naked except for a wife beater and there were 3 dudes in the room. I declined because I was 18 and scared. I think the problem here is everyone is automatically picturing them as attractive people. A guy paid me $10 for $9.96 pizza. I told him I'd have to run to my car to get some pennies. He said I'll wait. Yup, used to have a special that came out to $23.99. People asked for change on 24. I once took an order from a guy who wanted his pizza crispy. When I asked him how exactly he wanted the crust, he said if the crust ain't black, I ain't coming back. For what it's worth, if I'm ordering thin crust, I always ask for extra crispy. One time they got a little carried away and must have run it through the oven twice. The girl was visibly embarrassed when she brought a very dark, crunchy pizza to the table and she offered to have them make a new one. I had to reassure her that this is exactly what I wanted. Best pizza I ever had. Wasn't an ask, but this old woman paid exact change and tipped me in delicious pears. But when winter came she stopped. So cold. But when winter came she stopped. So cold sounds like a song lyric or line of a poem. A bachelorette party requested a mushroom pizza with the toppings laid out to resemble the shape of a penis. A couple who ordered regularly also liked us to draw mythical creatures on the inside of the pizza box lid for them to be surprised by. Got a familiar address and delivered to the father of an old friend I had from a land center my dad ran growing up. His dad was a really cool guy back in the day, and still is. But back then he was cool in the I've always got Capri Sun and goldfish on deck kind of way. Nowadays he's cool in the I'm having an orgy and buying everyone I'm currently banging pizza kind of way. Anyways, the strangest request I ever received was to not tell his son about anything I saw that day. He also tipped fat. This sentence arouses me. Had to open his wine because his shakes were too bad. He was our most regular customer. He was a real nice old man that seemed rather intelligent, but he would order at least 2 bottles of wine. I crap you not, that guy spend like $10K at our place mostly on alcohol. Years ago, I delivered for a place that tried to build themselves as gourmet pizza. Since they were so classy, the drivers' uniforms were a tuxedo shirt and bow tie. I had the misfortune of delivering to 2 separate bachelorette parties in my time at this company, and on both occasions, the middle-aged ladies refused to believe I was not the stripper. When I actually handed them the pizzas, They still tried to pay me to take my clothes off. I know it sounds like it would be awesome, but it was beyond awkward, mortifying. I could not get out of there fast enough. You must be attractive. A guy ordered. I was about to go to his address, which was the default, but noticed that it said to deliver it to a crappy motel room which was literally a minute drive from his house. Went there. He answered in his underwear with some girl laying on the bed. He picked up his jeans, pulled a big stack of money to pay me from. That one was pretty interesting, and not so much awkward or unusual, but there is a super rich neighborhood on the edge of my city full of $1 million houses. Those guys almost never tip. And if they do, it's only $1 or $2. The people living deep in the ghetto in 100-plus-year-old decrepit houses usually tip $5 plus. When I delivered, I tended to get my biggest tips from people who lived in trailer parks, and some of my smallest tips from the nice neighborhoods. When I worked at Pizza Inn in my high school days, I had somebody call and ask for fruit snacks on their pizza. I had to politely tell them that was not offered. I'd said, if you can give me 15 extra minutes, sure. I delivered a couple pizzas and these two girls answered the door in their underwear. I was 18 years old at the time. I gave them their pizza, trying to be professional. They gave me a $5 tip. Then they asked me if I'd run to the store and pick up tampons for them. I declined. They told me they'd give me an extra $10. I declined again. It was awkward. I'm so glad I can post this. Has to be the weirdest delivery in the world. So before I even get the delivery, my manager tells me something is weird about it because the guy wanted to call me, the driver, before I delivered it. He told him no, so I was told to call the guy when I got to the house. I arrive at the house and call the number and he tells me to come to the door and ring the bell. Okay, fine. An elderly woman answers the door and he tells me to hand the phone to her, so I do. She starts yelling and screaming at the guy on the phone, telling him she has a restraining order and she changed her phone number and everything. She's really upset and crying. She hangs up and tells me how he lives in another state and he's insane. I guess this was the only way he could think of getting to talk to her. Weirdest crap I have seen. Yeah, I never got a tip on that delivery. I had almost the exact same experience delivering to an elderly woman. As it turns out, the guy over the phone was a scam artist from Jamaica who had taken advantage of this older woman and now wanted more money. Anyways, he placed the order with the instruction to call on arrival, using the pizza as a way to get a hold of her. Fricked up crap. I live in a shore town and have to occasionally deliver to the beach. We are told to call the customer when we arrive so we can meet up with them on the beach. One day I ran a beach delivery and I went to call the customer but no one was picking up the phone. I called about 10 times and still no answer. So I decided to walk the beach with the food raised up, hoping someone would acknowledge me, claiming the food. After about 15 minutes, I finally found the customer and explained the whole scenario and I didn't even get a tip. It was the most pathetic delivery I have ever ran. Still pisses me off to this day. It was nearly 100 degrees and it was around 4th of July weekend, so I was extremely busy and could have spent that half hour running more deliveries as opposed to walking the beach for some butthole who didn't even tip me. If they don't answer the phone, then they can just call the store and be ready next time it goes out to them. Frick them. I was at a concert at Gillette Stadium and we took a party bus there. Got way too drunk at the concert and we went back out to the party bus a little early while some people stayed inside the concert. We weren't thinking completely straight and ordered Domino's. We told them our address was party bus at Patria Place parking lot. They actually came and dropped off 4 pizzas. They made a loyal Domino's customer that night. Glad Domino's didn't, fumble. I delivered pizza for years, and the strangest requests always came from the strip club down the street that I delivered to. The strippers would always order stuff like French fries with a side of mayonnaise or pizza with haddock on it. Got to see boobies though, so I wasn't going to judge. Our local strip club was at the tail end of a somewhat downward spiral when I was delivering. Had to listen to a few rough-looking strippers tell me about how awful the owner was. I felt pretty bad for them. These definitely weren't women who had a passion for stripping. Had someone order the extravaganza, basically every topping ever, from Domino's, with triple toppings. I told him it wouldn't cook. Manager told him it wouldn't cook. He said it was fine. We put it through the oven 2 times, Crust was basically burned. Dropped it off. Came back and got a call. Apparently it didn't cook and he wanted a refund. Manager just had him banned from all Domino's locations in our area instead. Great manager. Mine would have given him his refund. I once delivered to a boardroom full of what I think were lawyers playing poker. Not that interesting on its own, but the dealer was topless. I think they tipped well too. I used to work for Pizza Hut, and the most memorable request was on an internet order that said send your highest achiever. Me being the only driver since it was during the day, I took the order not knowing what it meant. When they answered the door, the dude asked, "Are you a high achiever?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Do you achieve highs?" Then it clicked, why do you ask? He says, "Here's the cash for the pizza. From now on when we order you don't even have to knock. Just walk in, set the pizza on the coffee table, take your cash and hit the pipe until it's cashed." They quickly became my favorite customers. They had some amazing weed. It got to the point where my manager would see me walk in Awesome freaking manager. Holy crap, what a cool boss. Smoked a few joints with customers. Had a few beers with some. Had a shot of some Thai snake liquor once too. Delivering was awesome. I always remember these older peeps would order and request anchovies outside of the pizza bag to stay cold. They insisted I just walk in every time it'd deliver. They'd all be sitting around playing cards in the kitchen. Nice people. I had a bug guy that came to spray our old apartment building room by room. I opened the door and it looks dead on Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. So of course I offer the bong to him. Then we begin talking and watching the movie that I was watching. Anyways, he leaves. He didn't spray for bugs at all. Had to come back the next day. A guy said he only had $100 bills, but I only brought enough change to break a $50. He called the store and complained, and didn't leave a tip, and actually refused to pay for his food until I went all the way back to the store, got more change, which was against company policy to accept a $100 anyway, and came back. My boss said to just come back to the store, and he'd take care of it. My store doesn't break hundreds unless the order is above $80. We got an online order that had the special request, "Send your cutest delivery boy." That happened to be me, not because I was cutest, the random chance of who was up for delivery at that time, and two late 20s early 30s chicks opened the door, one with her kid in her arms. They didn't tip me. Guess that answers that. I guess weird requests weren't a thing when I delivered pizza. Weirdest thing anyone asked me for was a dill pickle pizza, which I guess isn't that weird, but it made my car stink for 2 weeks. The most awkward one was the guy when I was 18 years old. It was late and he was in his 50s I'd say and very drunk. He ordered in advance and I got it, but when I got there he invited me to step in so he could pay. He ends up snapping a photo of me and asking for one of the two of us. I was like, "Nah, I need the money, I have other orders waiting." He was persistent and tried to get me to stay and keep him company while he ate. I declined. I tried to leave and he grabbed my arm and said he forgot to tip me. Dude tipped me like $65 for a $15 pizza. I tried to say I couldn't take that, but he said I deserved it and he was getting uncomfortably close. I thanked him and bolted out the door. I thought I had gotten about $29 or so because I saw the 20 on the outside and saw more. Once I left and counted it, I felt a little bad. But anyway, that's when I decided to enforce my new rule of not entering homes unless I know them or I feel safe with my environment. Yeah, the place I worked at made it clear that you weren't supposed to enter the house. I never did unless it was a big party and they asked me to bring it inside. Some people are strange. Not to mention delivery drivers are second most likely to be murdered while at work, behind taxi drivers. I once had a request for a sexy shirtless hunk to deliver the pizza. I couldn't be further from hunk condition. Picture your typical neck beard, but thought it'd be funny to take my shirt off when I arrived as a goof. It was a teenage girl's birthday party and was super awkward. I felt like a huge creep, but a hand job later I was out of there. You left a pizza boy and came back a pizza man. My brother used to have a regular customer request that he always deliver his pizza. The guy only paid in weed. My brother really liked that guy. So this was last year when I was 20. I drove up to the house and an attractive young woman opens the door. I tell her the total, and she pays me. But before taking her pizza, she says with an accent, "Hold on, lem just come out of the garage," and closes the door. She then comes out of the garage and asks me, "Can you drive me back to my house?" At this point, I had so many questions come through my head. Who are you? Whose pizza is this? Whose house is this? But being the shy guy I am, I just asked if she was sure that's what she wanted, and before she even answered, she was in the passenger seat of my car. She then explained to me that she lives just down the street and she was moving from one house to the other. This was a very rich neighborhood. I guess rich people do crap like that. Lady, young 40s-ish, wanted me to go inside her house so she could get her pen and kept insisting I come inside. She was wearing a robe with a cigarette in hand. I just gave her my pen and she went on about trying to get me inside her house. She paid, put down the pizza, and I noped the frick out before anything else happened. I want to say, you mean pen. Alright, so I had this delivery once to a hospital. Some guy bought a bunch of pizzas for his family who I'm guessing were visiting a patient. He orders like 8 larges, comes out to exactly $100. I pull up and it's like 4 Mexican men, one very hefty and waving around a $100 bill as I drive into the loading area of the hospital. But before I can open my trunk to get the pizzas, they start crowding around me like vultures. This isn't the weird part. I say to the fat man, "Do you want me to unload all these pizzas to these guys?" He stammers for a bit and says no, take them to the cafeteria. His minions scatter like roaches. At this point, I assume he will just meet me at the cafeteria, but he hands me the $100 and says he'll show you how to get there, and goes to my passenger door, opens it and gets inside. I should have locked my door. In hindsight, I always do now. Me being a non-confrontational dude, I just say frick it, maybe he will tip me well for going through hoops for him. Well, as we go around the building, I notice him shift his weight in his seat and then he just rips a huge juicy fart. The fat man didn't even have the decency to shoot it away from me. He just launched it in my general direction without thinking. I remember slowing down and turning to him in shock. He just kept his eyes forward the whole time, acting like he didn't just rip butt in a stranger's car. Thank God I had my windows open that day. He ends up making me haul all 8 pizzas by myself into this crowded cafeteria. When I'm finished unloading, I know deep down he isn't going to tip, but I stand there looking at him as he is looking down away from me. I grew a little mini pear in that moment and politely asked, "Do you maybe have $1 or $2 you could give to me for helping you out?" He just sits there not making eye contact with me, shakes his head and says nah. I remember a security guard was sitting right there and I look at him and he has this shocked look on his face as well. I just shrug and leave. Shitters will be shitters. TLDR. Fat Mexican man tips me by farting in my passenger seat. This was in the store and while I was there, I didn't see it. A 13-ish girl comes in to get a slice. While I'm cooking that, a Latino guy who was waiting for his pizza reached up her skirt. The girl says nothing, but one of the drivers saw. He follows the guy outside and proceeds to kick his butt in the parking lot. The driver got fired from being a bouncer for being too aggressive, and then calls the cops. Another not so creepy story is we had a regular who would order the same thing every Tuesday, without fail. It was a 12 inches extra thin crust avalanche. 3x cheese, pizza with artichoke and banana peppers. Every time it was a sopping mess of soft dough and cheese. But again, he ordered it every week for the 4 years I worked there. Another weird thing about this guy was that he was one of those baby fetishists, like dress up in a diaper and crap himself and have his nurse clean up. So he'd answer the door in costume, and either smelled like crap or baby powder, depending on where they were within the evening. They were always very polite and tipped really well. It was just weird. Did anyone here deliver to a military compound in NC barracks and find a bunch of dudes with masks on and a girl in her underwear and a horse mask? Cause if so, that was me and I want that picture. Please tell me this was at Fort Fisher. Come on in. Yes, I'd love to come into the house of a total stranger with 3 out of control pit bulls, a strong smell of cigarettes, a pile of beer cans on the carpet, and a roll of duct tape on the table. It seems totally legit. Online order came through. On the notes the customer asked what does the fox say. I had just seen the video a few days earlier so I was familiar with it. Pulled up and rang the doorbell. Gave them their pizza and they sat there expecting to hear it. I did the song and they all cried out in joy and had the biggest smiles on their faces. Got a nice tip off of it too. Driver order taken many moons ago. Best one was the guy who called and asked if we did pizza without sauce. Sure, no problem. Do we make them without cheese? Yeah, we can do that. Then he asked for a pizza with no sauce, no cheese, no toppings. Is there like a special name for that kind of pizza? Yes, sir. Bread. Used to deliver pizza. Had a regular customer who would phone in a delivery order, then wait in the car park and ask every delivery worker if they had his pizza and request a ride home. The cost of a delivered pizza was about half the cost of a taxi. I drove him home every couple of weeks for a year or so. That is a smart man. Not me. A friend told me this classic delivery. Delivers 3 pizzas to a lady. She answers the door and asks if he can do her a favor for a few extra bucks. He's hesitant at first. Older lady, and not a cougar. He says yes. She asks him to change a light bulb she can't reach. Oh, no problem. Happy to help this lady who probably lives alone. She leads him into the dining room living room and there are 5-6 people in there, all watching TV. Most of them fully grown adults, a couple teenagers, all of them more than capable of changing the light from the ceiling fan in the middle of the room. No one says anything or looks at my friend. She hands him the light bulb and he changes one of the bulbs, all the while this group of people continues to not acknowledge any of this is happening. It's not a raunchy story, but it is pretty funny to think about. Also it's true, unlike 95% of what's going to be posted here. I wonder if they made a bet if he would change the bulb or not and agreed not to interfere. Kind of on topic. Not a pizza boy or anything, but one day I walked into a favorite pizza place of mine and asked if I could just buy a throwaway bottle of Dr. Pepper since I was walking to work. The manager handed me the pop and said it's on the house. Next week I ordered a pizza and tipped the delivery guy $50. Dude looked like he won the lottery. Tell the boss I said thanks for the soda. One good turn deserves another and the dudes there would drive through a blizzard to get pizzas out, so he probably deserved it anyway. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.